Welcome back to Families in Action right here on KHTS, AM 1220, your hometown station. And today we are talking Grief Never Takes a Holiday with our special guest, Dan Broyles.
I sure wish it was.
Oh, I know. I'm with
Wouldn't
you.
it be nice if we could just take a complete break from grief?
Yes.
Dan Broyles from Grace Baptist Church, who's the care pastor, and Colleen Sando, who leads the grief group at Grace Baptist Church. Colleen, you are leading that grief group from your heart, from a passion in your heart.
Yes,
Can
I
you
am.
tell us what happened?
Through the major loss of losing my son, who was 2 years old at the time, he drowned in a swimming pool, changed my whole life. I went another way in my life because of that. And through many losses in the 90s, I had multiple losses in the 90s, and some of them I took very. With my son, I brought all my grief to God, and that was the way I was able to get through it.
Right.
In the 90s, when I lost several people, I got angry with God. I got mad at him because I just didn't like the way he allowed things to happen. And because of those emotions that I had, I went really down in depression. I had complicated grief. But I have to say that every loss that I've ever had was made a profound difference in my life. In 2000, when I decided, I can't take this anymore, I just came to God and I said to God that take my life and use it any way you want. And when I came back to him in 2000 is when he put a passion in my heart and gave me the people all around me to help me to do what I'm doing today. Dan Broyles was a major person in my life to help me to be on this path, and I've done it ever since 2000.
He's definitely one of our heroes.
He's my boss.
He's amazing. No, he's amazing, isn't he?
Oh, yes, he is.
And I mean that from my heart.
Oh, me too. He is amazing, and he's been a major role in my in the ministry that I do today. And because of it, the Lord has just put a passion in my heart to walk alongside of people because I get it. I understand what they're going through. I've gone through every emotion there was of grief, so I can relate to these people.
I mean, we all know what grief is,
Yes.
and we know how horrible it feels.
Yes.
But it takes somebody special that's been through what you've been through to really get that part of it. Because I have kids, and I cannot imagine if anything happened to one of them.
Yeah.
So.
And I have amazing people that work with me that get it, that work with. I've never lost a spouse, but I have some wonderful people that are facilitators that have lost a spouse and work along with me. I have other people along with me that have lost a child. And so I have a great team. Great team at Grace.
So if somebody, excuse me, I got this cold, but if somebody's out there and they lost somebody recently or years ago, and it just won't go, especially right now.
Right.
This is a really tough time for a lot of people out there, because you want to be thankful. Christmas is coming. You want to feel good, but there's someone missing.
That's right. And what we tell them, and we encourage them to not try and live up to other people's expectation of them during the holiday season.
Right.
It's not about pleasing other people right now. It's about taking care of yourself and allowing yourself to be able to grieve without guilt. We let them know that if you're invited to this party or this get-together, you have an option. You don't have to go.
Right.
Or if you do go, let the hostess know that you might not want to stay the whole time, that you might have to leave. And don't feel guilty, because I think a lot of I did when I lost my son, you just feel that you have to take your grief and stuff it and do what everybody else wants you to do, and you don't want to do that, and you don't want to be a downer for everybody. Mm-hmm. So you're living, going through grief with such a denial of your feelings, and then you go home and you just cry.
You know, we've been taught something since we were kids, really. At least I don't know if we've been taught it, but we've certainly heard it before. And there's a phrase that says, laugh and the world laughs with
Yes.
you. Cry and you cry alone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you're saying we don't have to do that.
No, we don't. And you know, when they come at the Surviving the Holidays that we're having next Wednesday is all based on tools to help them get through the holidays. And they have an option. Maybe they don't want to do the traditional having the whole family over. I have a lady that her mother passed away very recently, and she is in terrible grief. They're taking off for the holidays. They're leaving and going camping. It's something very not traditional for her.
Right.
But this is the way she's dealing with it, and that's okay.
Good for her.
We let them know it's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to step into other people's expectations of you. It's all right. You know.
In fact, what you really have to do is take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Whatever that
Absolutely.
means.
And I found when you keep just trying to live up to everybody's expectations, you actually go deeper into loneliness,
Yes.
which just brings on other problems of possible depression or other issues when you keep having to manage everybody else's expectations.
That's right.
Well, if you put expectations on other people, places, and things, you're going to get let down anyways.
Yeah.
Dan, you have a special event coming up,
Right.
and we want to make sure we get to mention it
Sure.
several times here during the show. What's going on?
So in 2 days, on December 14th, on Wednesday night, we're actually having a one-time event called Surviving the Holidays for anyone who's gone through grief. And even if it was last month or in the last year, you can just show up.
Or 12 years ago?
Yep. Yes, absolutely,
Yes.
because time doesn't solve all grief.
That's
You know
right.
that, and I really want to stay with that. People say time heals all, and that's
Not true.
correct.
I agree with that.
Time helps you deal with things in a better way if you're participating in it. But time does not heal all.
No.
Right. So this event really is for anybody because the more you stuff grief, it doesn't mean it goes away. People think we just put it under the carpet and it's gone, and it's just not reality. And so this event is at 6:30 on Wednesday night
At Grace Baptist.
At Grace Baptist, and people can just show up. You don't have to be part of the church. You can just be anybody in the community. It's
You don't
really
even
free.
have to be a Christian, right?
Nope, just anybody in Santa Clarita or the surrounding areas that's had a grief, and the holidays seem a little tough.
Right.
There may be one person out there that doesn't know where Grace
Yep.
Baptist is located.
So Grace Baptist is at 22833 Copper Hill, pretty much on the corner of Copper Hill and Saco in the Santa Saugus area. And we'd love to have people, or they can call our phone number, which is 661-296-8737, and ask for the grief group, and we'll be glad to just talk through questions with them. Because we just want to be there for people who are going through things like this. And we don't want people feeling alone. Because one of the worst things to do is when you're going through grief is to feel lonely. That just like,
And it's so easy to isolate.
oh, so easy. It almost comes natural without trying.
You don't want to get out of bed. You just want to be alone,
That's right.
which pushes you more and more into depression.
Well, you know, it's hard to be able to relate to people what you're feeling. And one quote of Shakespeare, I won't do the whole quote, but it's give sorrow words. We help give the grieving people words to be able to express themselves. It is so hard to express what you're really feeling. The
Right.
pain is so deep.
Yeah.
But it's out of the expressing with the group that will help them to heal.
I have to tell a short story. As Cary knows, my son, my wife and I's son, Christopher, passed away almost 4 years ago. And I work in the behavioral health unit with Cary. 6 months, I believe it was 6 months after our son Christopher passed away, a co-worker in the behavioral health unit lost her son, who is also named Christopher. So what we do is every once in a while we'll just say to each other, "How you doing?"
Right.
When things like Christmas comes up and other times of the year, how are you doing? And that helps a lot. It really does.
Yes, it does.
Because one of the things that people are afraid of is to ask how people are really doing.
Yes.
Will I make them cry? Will I make it worse if I ask about, someone who lost a son or a family member? And actually, that it's the opposite. It's actually caring and loving. It says, I care about you. I care about what you're going through. And one of the things we've encouraged people for this event is bring someone who's been grieving. Because often people who are grieving won't come on their own. because they're so overwhelmed. They are
right.
stuck in bed. They are lacking motivation. So if you know somebody who's gone through a grief in the last year or more, just to bring them. And that would be great because when people are grieving, it feels like they're walking through like wet cement. It's so difficult to do the everyday life.
And for this gathering, will people be able to ask questions? In other words, maybe they have children. How do I talk with my children about
Yes.
this?
Absolutely.
There are a lot of things that come up that you just don't think about.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you can help us with this one. When you lose somebody, if there's brothers, sisters, and aunts, uncles, I mean, everybody's affected. And a lot of times when we get into so much of our own grief and depression, we forget about siblings and
That's
stuff like
right.
that, and they hurt just as much.
It is so important to not ignore or even I've heard of families that if, say, they have lost a husband or a father, a mother, or a child, a
Right.
sibling, and they will send off the other child maybe
Right.
to an aunt or an uncle because they can't deal with them right now. But what they're doing is they're not allowing that child to grieve along with the family. And
Exactly.
they need to do that. And they call them the silent grievers. Children are the silent grievers. They cry at night because they're just pushed aside. The grief is too much for say the mother lost the father, her husband, and that son or that daughter lost a daddy.
Yeah.
But yet they are
And they're not emotionally even grown up enough
Right.
to know how to deal with those intense feelings.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember years ago, I used to run actually a children's grief group for children ages 5 to 12, and there had all been a death in the family.
Yeah.
You were Uncle Dan?
I was, yeah. And it was interesting because the kids craved to talk about it. I remember one specific group, we had about 10 kids sitting around a table, all about 2nd to 4th grade. And I said, well, tell me what you miss about the person who died. And it was actually hard to get them to stop talking when the parents came because they found they had an outlet to talk, and they're not used to that. The parents don't want to bring it up because it's so emotional for them. And so it was amazing. These kids were like craving to be heard and craving to talk about memories and what that person is like and what they miss. And so kids really want to have a safe place to talk about what's really going on.
And it's okay, I've had a lot of mothers and fathers say to me, should I cry in front of my child? I feel bad to letting them see me cry. And I said, please do cry in front of your children. Let them know that you're grieving and talk about your tears and your grief with your child. And it'll help them when they grow up to know how to grieve properly.
Feelings are real.
Yes,
What's not real is hiding them.
that's right.
And interestingly, we talked about this last week as well, and we mentioned it here already, but that is nobody can tell you how to grieve. And think of a kid. Nobody can tell them how to grieve. They don't know what these emotions are that are coming up on them,
Right.
and they're having to deal with their grief.
That's right.
And then to be able to normalize that for an adult or a child is so a sense of relief. Because a lot of times people feel like they're going crazy when
Yes.
they're grieving. Like, what's wrong with me? And I don't feel like even doing basic things like taking a shower today or
Right.
having fun with my friends. And so to say, that sounds pretty normal when you're going through grief is almost take this weight off their shoulders.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
so again,
But they don't just have this Tuesday thing. I mean, this thing coming in 2 days.
Right.
You have an actual
Yes,
group.
yes.
Talk about that.
So we have a one-time event, coming up Wednesday night at 6:30. But come January, we do this pretty much throughout the year as a weekly group for people grieving. So if you can't make this Wednesday, we have a group that meets every Wednesday night at 6:30. Again, people can just show up there, or if someone wants to bring them. And Colleen has been running that group for about 15 years.
About 12 years.
So
for
many
the
years.
grief share.
And it's been great for people to have a voice, to be heard, to not feel alone.
So it's really scary. I know when people come to my group for their kids that are having issues. I was talking to my dad a couple months ago, and he said, "Yeah." I said, "It's your first time?" He says, "Well, I've been trying to come for the past 3 weeks, and I don't have the courage to get
Right,
in."
right.
I'm sure it's very frightening for somebody to think
It
I'm
is.
going to go.
I think about one lady that came, her daughter was coming with her older daughter. She had lost her husband, and she couldn't get out of her car. She stayed in the parking lot. And when she did come up, she wound up, after she went through her grieving process, she wound up being a facilitator with me. And she told me, I couldn't get up those stairs. I just couldn't get up there. It's very hard. Yeah. And we tell them when they come the first time, please give it 3 times. Yeah. Because it's the hardest thing you did was to come in that door today.
And you all know how tough it is for them to come.
Yes.
That they really laid around and really, I mean, this was major. It was a major decision for that person.
It really was, and scary. And there's marriages that have lasted 50, 60 years, and they've lost their wife or their husband, and they are completely devastated in life. They don't know how they're going to go on. And we just had our last memorial night last Wednesday night. That's the end of our sessions.
Right.
And he had to be in his 80s, and he had lost his beloved wife. And we were giving our memorial night is when they were able to talk about their loved one and share a picture. And he just started singing in the middle of it. He said, "Do you mind if I sing this song?" He was so encouraged that night, and we all sang with him. And it was a real special moment when he sang.
I bet.
Yeah.
And I wanted to share another short story, and that is when my brother and I were young, and he's my younger brother by 2 years, and one of the things that we did, I think, he must have been about 5 or 6 years old, and I was a couple of years older, and we decided that it would be a cool thing to sneak in the middle of the night. We'd wake up and we'd sneak into the living room, and we'd sort of touch all the gifts and see what Santa brought us. And it was just him and I. And, we couldn't see much because it was dark, right? We weren't brave enough to turn on the lights. And the game was to do that without getting caught by Mom and Dad, of course. And they never did catch us, although, boy, it came close a few times. We crawled on our stomach. It was amazing. I lost my brother 2 years ago, and every Christmas we would always laugh about what we did as kids.
Yeah.
So this time of the year for a lot of people is really, really
very
rough,
painful.
all by itself. But then if you add grieving to that, for the loss of someone,
and there's a lot of different grief.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways of grief. I mean, it could be the loss of someone. It could be the separation.
Yes.
Divorced children have a really hard time with. I mean, it could be so many different things. It could be, like you said, not a mother or father. It could be a brother or an uncle.
It's true.
And it's amazing the little things that can bring up memories.
Yes.
So I'm curious, even when you see presents under a tree.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right? You think of your brother.
I used to call my brother and say, "Hey, you remember when we used to do that?" We always laughed about it. It was just our little fun, silly thing that we came up with when we were kids. But yeah, I think about my brother now at Christmas time.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
a lot
nice.
of triggers at Christmas and the holidays. A lot of triggers come up, and very painful memories.
And it's okay to hurt.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's okay to deal with it. It's okay to reach out for help.
Yep.
That's right.
It's okay to tell your family what's going on.
Yeah.
But for the listener out there that's saying to themselves, I hear what you're saying, I just don't know if I can do it, encourage him, Dan.
Yeah, I would just say being alone is never going to make the hurt disappear.
And it's okay to come to your group and shed some tears?
Absolutely.
Oh,
But you
yes.
know what I hear from people? I don't want to be a menace. I don't want to keep telling
I don't
people
wanna be a burden
how
to
much.
people.
I don't want to be a burden. People are tired of hearing me say this.
They do say that in Grief Share. They said, I just feel like people are tired of hearing me now. It's been a certain amount of time, and people give people enough, just a certain amount of time, and then you should be over it.
Yeah,
So,
and I would say that if over a period of time, sometimes people will ask, when are you going to get over this?
yes.
It's been 6 months.
Yes.
And if you ever have that with friends or people around you, that I would encourage you still to come, or even if it's been years, to still be part of this, to not be alone in this, because it has impact years down the road. This is not something you just get over, especially a loved one, like Colleen said, a child, or Michael said, a brother. They have impact for years and years.
Yeah.
We have to take a break here in a moment, Cary, but when we come back, we definitely want to give our listeners this information about where this is and what time and how long and all that stuff, because they really, really need to be there for this. This will help them to have a better holiday, won't it?
And I promise
Yes.
you this, no one there's going to say, just get over it.
No.
Or just stop crying.
No one
Hardly,
there's
yeah.
going to
No.
be
If anybody's
bothered by you sharing your
That's
pain.
right.
If
We
anybody,
promise you that.
if anybody hears that, they went to the wrong place. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're at a Boy Scout meeting, not at, not at
We
your.
have tissues on every table.
There
So-
you go. So on that note, Mike, you want to take us on break?
Sure will. We'll be right back with more Grief Never Takes a Holiday with Families in Action on KHTS AM 1220, your hometown station.
Welcome back to Families in Action on your local hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen, along with my co-host, the Silver Fox, Michael Duarte.
How you
And, hey,
doing?
Michael, Dan, Colleen, wow, what a great show. And what great information and what great things you guys are doing here in Santa Clarita. And grief, we know, never takes a holiday.
Ever.
In fact, it can really be intense
Yes.
during the holidays. That's why you have this activity coming on
Yes.
on Wednesday, which you might want to tell us a little bit more on who should show and what they should expect.
Yes. Anyone in grief should come to the Surviving the Holidays. It will help you through, instead of getting in the bed and covering yourself up until the holidays are over, it will give you tools to be able to know how to take action on taking care of yourself through the holidays and not to go through it with guilt of trying to just keep up with everybody else expecting you to do this and do that. That you're important. You need to take care of your own grief, and if you have to change it completely, your traditions, then do it. Whatever you feel like doing, do it. That's what we say. But the video that we show, it's like 30 to 40 minutes long, and through it, it will say and encourage them and give them the tools to get through these holidays.
And Dan, is there anything you'd like to say that we haven't quite covered yet?
Well, one of a practical thing you can do if you know somebody is going through grief, and sometimes people will come to me and say, "What should I say to him or her?"
Right.
It just feels awkward. I don't know what to say. One of the best things you can do is ask, "What do you miss about the person who died? What do you miss about him or her?" And I know people are often afraid of tears, but when you ask that question, it opens up a door to show you care about them, because often people feel like over time people have forgotten about the person who died.
Right.
Yes.
But if you're really close to that person, you haven't forgotten a bit. And so it's really a way to help families connect.
And you miss a lot.
And you miss a lot, but now it feels like that pain is invisible to the people around you.
Yes.
And so it's just a real practical question to ask. And if there's tears involved, that's really okay.
Yeah.
To not be afraid of tears. People will actually feel relieved that you ask, because they're sometimes dying inside to want to talk about their loved one.
That's right.
Before we run out of time, let's give all the details on this gathering that you're having.
Absolutely. So again, it's Wednesday, December 14th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at Grace Baptist Church, which is on the corner of Copper Hill and Saco, 22833 Copper Hill. And it's in room D as in dog, D220.
But all they have to do is say the grief group, right?
Yep, just the
And they
grief
will
group
know
and
where
just show up.
Is there a phone number that they can
Yep.
go to?
That's 296-8737. 296-8737.
And Colleen, this group it goes on, it's every week in January.
Yes, it is. Now, we will take a break after the Surviving the Holidays, and we'll start up again January the 11th
Okay.
on Wednesday night.
So it's every Wednesday
Yes,
at Grace Baptist?
Yes.
At what time?
6:30 to 8:30.
And how do they get a hold of you or whatever it is if they want to do
They
it?
could call that number that
The
Dan...
main number at the church, the 296-8737. So if they can't do it this time and they want to come sometime in 2017, they can show up or call us, and we'll help them walk through questions they might have. And we just want to be there to support people.
I just had a question come to my
Sure.
mind. I was thinking, what if somebody doesn't think they can make it to this, but do they think they might be able to talk to you on the phone? How's that work?
Absolutely, absolutely. They can just call up. We actually have people they can talk with. We actually have something where you can meet with somebody one-to-one.
And they don't have to be a Christian. It's
Right.
Grace Baptist. You guys have a huge
It's really there
outreach
for the
system.
community,
Yeah.
because we want to care about people's pain, and especially with some of the topics we were talking about at the very beginning of the show is when people don't deal with their pain, they're more likely to deal with addictions to cope.
That's right.
Whether it's the too much of drinking,
Self-medicating. Yeah.
all of that comes in when they don't face their grief. And a lot of times, I've seen a lot of people who have substance abuse problems. There's a lot of losses that occurred when they first started using or first started going from casual drinking to out of control drinking. And so loss is something in our culture that we don't get over very quickly, meaning because we don't know how to talk about it. Or even in the business world, we're supposed to get 3 grief days.
Yeah.
And when we lose somebody close to us, a piece of us goes too.
That's right.
And we have to learn how to be able to deal with all that.
Yes.
Right. And it's hard to think about a new normal.
Yeah, because it changes everything.
Everything. I've had a lot of people say, well, my mom who passed away, she was the one who set up the holidays or the Christmas events. And now what are we going to do? Because we used to go to her house, and now we don't know what to do.
And men talk about how their wife did that, or their wife talked about.
Yes.
Well, you get lost. I mean, you do because you don't know what to do.
Right, all the secondary losses.
Right.
Yes.
That just a simple thing as my wife used to be the one that did the shopping, and now. What do I do?
Exactly.
I'm not used to doing all this, and that's just one of dozens and dozens of secondary losses that happens in grief.
But it's so much better to pick up the phone.
It's,
and so
it's
much
definitely
less,
a trickled effect, that's for sure. It just
Yes.
trickles down. It's like, now what?
But it's so
Right.
much better to pick up the phone or go to this function than it is to get into the wonderful world of trying to self-medicate with alcohol or
Right.
drugs.
Absolutely.
Right.
So we got 1 minute left, so it's Wednesday.
Wednesday at 6:30 at Grace Baptist Church in the room D as in dog 220, and again the number is 296-8737.
Very cool, Mike.
Wow, what a show, Cary.
You know?
And we just want everybody to have a wonderful holiday, no matter what they're
Right.
celebrating.
And we know that grief does not leave during the holidays. That being said, there are ways you can still feel good and not be alone and be able to deal with things with people that are out there that's been through it and wants to help.
And we sure don't want them to become one of our statistics.
No.
5 people, 10 people die during the hour that we've done this show, Perry.
I know.
Perry, look how many people are no longer with us.
No. Nor do we want somebody to lay in their bedroom under the covers alone and sad.
Absolutely.
That's not the way to spend the holidays.
No, not a good way at all.
So on that note, Mike?
Well, that's it for Families in Action for this week. Join us again next week, same time, same station, here on KHTS AM 1220, your hometown station.